Governor Bevin declares a state of emergency in response to numerous wildfires in several Kentucky counties.
Shooting in central Kentucky learned their sentences today.
Police arrest a man they say identified a criminal informant on social media.
This is WKYT News at 5:30.
Good evening. As several counties battle wildfires, the governor declared a statewide emergency. His goal is to get crews immediate access to state resources.
The Kentucky Division of Forestry says there are 38 active fires that have burned 3,800 acres. This Sky First video just in our newsroom. It is from Pike County near Shelby Valley High School along US 23. You can see several plumes of smoke billowing there from the hillsides. WKYT's Garrett Weimer is on fire watch in Frankfort, where the Air National Guard has now been called up to help.
The State Emergency Operations Center here in Frankfort has been activated as state officials work to support efforts led by the Division of Forestry to put those fires out. With the EOC at level 3, representatives from each state cabinet are here as the state works to coordinate efforts to battle the fires. The Division of Forestry says crews responded to 44 fires today. They say the fires have burned more than 6,000 acres since they started. The governor declared a state of emergency, and the National Guard deployed 3 choppers to drop water on the fires from the air. State officials have been briefed throughout the day to stay on top of new information about the fires. Unfortunately, they expect the dry conditions feeding them to stick around. They say even rain the region saw today won't be enough to help much.
We're dependent on the weather, but the Air National Guard is now dropping water on fires, and that's going to help, and it will continue to help. But until we get a good soaking rain, we're going to be in the soup a little bit.
State officials say they expect their efforts here to go on for at least a week as they work to put those fires out. At the State Emergency Operations Center in Frankfort, Garrett Weimer, WKYT.
The state's emergency management director says this is the first time wildfires have caused a state of emergency here since 2001. Thankfully, still no reports of evacuations, injuries, or house fires.
I'm in the First Alert Weather Center now with Chief Meteorologist Chris Bailey. And Chris, the tough thing about this is you've called for scattered showers, but you just heard him say we need a soaking kind of rain, and that doesn't sound like that's in your forecast.
This is not a soaking rain, but anything is going to actually help. We're going to get an increase in the humidity levels out there, Sam, into southeastern Kentucky, which will at least aid the firefighters on the front lines there, because that increase in humidity will kind of slow down the progress of some of those fires, and they won't be burning as quickly. It won't be burning as hot, but I don't think this rain is going to be enough to extinguish them. We'll look at our Jackson cam and notice the smoky conditions in the distance here. Yesterday, you had more smoke showing up on this particular cam. So here we are targeting southeastern Kentucky, the counties that are seeing the worst of the forest fires right now. And you've actually got some rain beginning to press on into town, and that's what we're going to be dealing with as we go through the next little bit, with some of those gusty showers that will work on in from northwest to southeast. Is it going to be enough to just totally take control of this situation? No. Can it help? Absolutely. When you see dark greens, when you see some yellows and some oranges on this, at least some local downpours can dampen the forest beds out there and slow the progress of those fires. The problem is we're not going to follow this up with more rain. We're going to follow it up with more dry weather. A little bit of good news coming up later this evening. Notice how we have another band of rain trying to build here into northern Kentucky. That'll slide toward the southeast. So let's focus on this particular area. Watch the timeline, and you're going to get in on some more scattered showers and thunderstorms. But guys, if you don't pick up anything by 11 or 12 o'clock tonight, it just ain't happening for the next several days. Now, when I come back with a full forecast here in about 10 minutes, we'll focus on the weekend. That continues to be dry, but we'll look toward that next rain chance late in the 7-day.
Chris, thank you. And for information on the wildfires and where there are burn bans right now, go to WKYT.com or look inside the WKYT News app.
An 84-year-old man charged in a crash that killed 2 people appeared in court today. Our county-by-county coverage at 5:30 begins in Clark County. The crash happened in June on the Winchester bypass. Police say James Pelfrey told them he was blinded by bright lights when he crashed into 2 cars waiting at a red light. 62-year-old Sarah Helfrich and 35-year-old Juanetta Mitchell were in one of those cars. Both were killed. Last week, a grand jury indicted Pelfrey on 2 counts of manslaughter. Today, Pelfrey's attorney asked the judge to release his client on house arrest. Prosecutors argued against the motion. The judge has not made a ruling. In Franklin County, we now know the identities of 3 men who died in a fiery crash yesterday morning. The sheriff says the crash was caused when a van blew a tire on I-64 near the Shelby County line. The coroner says 46-year-old Julio Ramirez, 40-year-old Santiago Lopez, and 28-year-old Jose Lobos were killed. All 3 men are from Lexington. Police say the driver survived that crash.
A man arrested for selling drugs is facing new charges after police say he intimidated a confidential informant by revealing his name on social media. Sabir Rayford has more in a story that's new at 5:30.
Houstonville Police Chief Fred McCoy says at first people called him complaining that Jeffrey Miller had been making threats against the alleged confidential informant online. He says shortly after that, he received calls telling him that Miller had spread flyers revealing the confidential informant's information throughout the Stanford Walmart. Chief McCoy tells us the complaints are something he takes very seriously. He says though informants are paid well to help police, they still work hard to protect their identity. He says this isn't Miller's first intimidation charge. According to court documents, Miller was arrested on October 28th for retaliation. McCoy says last year he was arrested for trying to sell crystal meth to an informant. He was then sentenced to 3 years on a supervised release. McCoy says in his 38 years as a police officer, he's never had to deal with a situation like this one. He says usually an informant's name is redacted from the court documents. He went on to say what Miller did was extremely brazen. McCoy says Miller posted the CI's personal information for everyone to see. McCoy went on to say that this is a very serious matter. He says he doesn't know what else it would be if not retaliation. In Lincoln County, Sabir Rayford, WKYT.
Miller has bonded out of jail. A court date has been set for November 21st.
There is now another place in Louisville for people to pay tribute to boxing legend Muhammad Ali. Ali's gravesite at Cave Hill Cemetery opened to the public today. Ali picked the location and specific plot in 2008, and among his requests, an area where landscaping with color was there. And to make it welcoming to the public, he wanted the construction of 2 granite benches for visitors. Many came to see the completed site this morning, including Ali's brother.
It's a very high tribute and honor to do this for my brother. He's in heaven now, and he's such a good person in life, and he deserves it.
The gravesite was built large enough for other family members to be buried there, including wife Lonnie Ali, who has already said that is where she'll make her final resting place.
You may have the same problem as me. My phone rings a couple of times a day, it seems like, from places and area codes that I don't have any connection with. They are often telemarketers. Calvin has our good question tonight. He says, it was not too long ago on the nightly news there was a segment on unwanted phone calls as to what we can do about them. But I missed some of the report. Could you send us some information on what we can do to get them stopped? Calvin, Kentucky's telemarketing no-call law allows Kentuckians to reduce the number of unwanted telemarketing calls invading their privacy, with some exceptions. To be protected by the law, you may sign up your phone number on the National Do Not Call Registry. It's a free service to people in Kentucky. Now, Kentucky's no-call list is maintained as part of the National Do Not Call Registry. Once you've signed up your telephone number, you may remain on that no-call list for 5 years. Kentuckians on the no-call list who receive unwanted telemarketing calls can file a complaint by completing an online complaint form or by calling the Attorney General's toll-free telemarketing complaint hotline. Here's that number, 866-877-STOP. That's the toll-free telemarketing complaint hotline number, or you can also mail in a written complaint form. To submit a good question, send an email to goodquestion@wkyt.com.
I'm Bill Bryant. Democratic Senate candidate Jim Gray's campaign continues on a surprising theme that he started in his debate with Republican Senator Rand Paul. The bottom line is ahead.
With just 5 days to go, the candidates are spending big to target undecided voters.
Bill Bryant has details on the bottom line.
Good evening. Now 5 days before the election, the campaigns know some voters are still undecided. Last night's World Series drew a huge audience, and both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton ran ads during the run-up to the Chicago Cubs' victory. Today, Melania Trump headed out onto the campaign trail. Donald Trump's wife delivering a get-out-the-vote speech outside of Philadelphia. Meanwhile, Trump's running mate, Indiana Governor Mike Pence, is declining to say whether he supports Paul Ryan to continue as Speaker of the House. Pence and Ryan served together in the House, but Trump was angered when Ryan announced last month that he would no longer campaign for or defend the GOP presidential nominee. A CBS News poll out today puts Clinton up by 3 points nationally, which is within the poll's margin of error. Just 2 weeks ago, that same poll had Clinton up 9 points. The Clinton campaign has decided to send the nominee to Detroit tomorrow, as the Trump campaign is targeting Michigan as a potential upset win for the Republicans. Clinton got some encouraging reports out of Pennsylvania today. 3 polls there show her lead holding up in the Keystone State. Democratic U.S. Senate challenger Lexington Mayor Jim Gray is doubling down with the tart words he used in Monday night's debate with incumbent Republican Senator Rand Paul. Today, Gray put out a list of what he calls Paul's top 10 wackiest wild-ass ideas. He has also started a new TV spot. UK political science expert Stephen Voss says Gray's use of lively language has gotten attention that the underdog candidate needed before the election.
He used the phrase wild-ass philosophies and theories, which got a lot of attention, maybe the most attention the Senate race has received the whole time. It's sad that, a mild cuss word is what it takes to get people talking about a U.S. Senate race.
Voss and Secretary of State Allison Lundergan Grimes are the guests on a pre-election edition of Kentucky Newsmakers airing Sunday morning. And Gray got the endorsement of the state's largest newspaper today. The Courier-Journal said Gray's plans are solid. Meanwhile, Paul started a new ad showing a coalition of military veterans supporting him. Bill Bryant, WKYT.
Bill, thank you. 3 men who pled guilty to a deadly shooting in Clark County were sentenced to prison today.
Christopher Robinson, Aaron Staley, and Lamont Wilkerson admitted to their roles in the 2014 shooting death of Amber Cottle. She died just days before Christmas after she was hit by a stray bullet that was fired inside an apartment above hers. WKYT's Victor Puente was in court today and talked with Cottle's mother.
The judge followed the recommended sentences for each of these 3 men. It was an emotional day in court as Amber Cottle's mother spoke directly to the men responsible for her death. Amber Cottle died in December of 2014 when a bullet fired into the apartment above hers went through the floor and hit her. 3 men said they were trying to rob the people in the apartment when the shot was fired. All 3 were facing the possibility of life without parole when they took plea deals. Today, they were sentenced. Christopher Robinson was sentenced to a total of 30 years for murder.
That was Victor Puente reporting. A status hearing is scheduled for Lillian Barnett's case in January.
Now, your hour-by-hour forecast with Chief Meteorologist Chris Bailey.
It's been one of those days across the Bluegrass State where you started out with a little sun, some clouds, it's mild, it's wet, it's windy, and now it just kind of looks a little gloomy out there. Live sky cam view from our station on Winchester Road, and we've picked up some rain today in Lexington. First time in a little while that we've had at least appreciable rain. Nothing to get too overly excited about, but I'll take each and every drop that we can get. We're looking at southeastern Kentucky, obviously with the forest fire situation there. We need all the rain, and this is a decent little batch of some showers working into the coal fields of southeastern Kentucky. So we're at least in a few spots going to help out with the forest fire situation in the short term. When you see on a radar those darker greens, the yellows, even a touch of some orange here from Pulaski County into sections of Clay County, Jackson County, Rockcastle, we're getting in on some locally heavy downpours. So you get one of those showers to move over a fire. Can it put 1 or 2 parts of that blaze out? Yes. Will it completely extinguish the entire setup that we're in? No, that's not going to be the case, but it is helping. Humidity levels will come up, and you're also getting the threat for some rain here into southeastern Kentucky. That includes the Mountain Parkway, where things are winding down just a little bit. Hey, look what's developing across the northern part of the state, though. Another band of some showers working in from northwest to southeast. So let's break down the next 3 days. Chilly winds will blow tomorrow, mix of sun and some clouds across the entire area. Never going to completely see a blue sky, I don't think, tomorrow. That may hold off until Saturday. Frost in the morning, 30s, sunshine, pleasant afternoon, 60 to 65 degrees. Sunday, bringing in again beautiful weather, near normal high temperatures with some sunshine around. So you get in on a seasonal brand of temperatures rolling on in for the next few days. So it's a seasonal chill coming up for the day on Saturday with high pressure on top of the Ohio Valley. No, it isn't anything that is out of the ordinary for this time of year, but it will give us something more typical for the first week of November. Hour by hour forecast. Watch those showers. Southeastern Kentucky, they'll taper off by 11 o'clock. Many areas into the 50s. 40s in the morning. Here's why I mentioned I don't think we're ever going to completely see a blue sky all day tomorrow. Notice the clouds kind of hang tough with those numbers that will be in the 50s. Sunset tomorrow evening, dry air that is in place. Watch your timeline. 5 o'clock, mid to upper 50s. We go to 11 o'clock, all of a sudden, low and mid 40s. That's how quickly that air can cool when you have high pressure with dry conditions over top of you. Same thing on Saturday morning when temperatures drop to around 35 degrees. Frost will be out there for a lot of folks on Saturday morning. Upper 30s again on Sunday, mid to upper 60s right on into Monday. Election Day forecast. I'll keep it mainly dry. There's a cold front into town. It could produce a late day shower, a little better shot by the end of next week. And by then we'll really need the rain.
You have chilly there for tomorrow. It's really going to feel that way just given what we've been experiencing
58
lately.
or 59 degrees for the first week of November normally is nothing to write home about, but after you've been in the low 80s, that's chilly, right?
Chris, thank you.
Got a couple of collisions working. One is on the outer loop of the Circle at Alumni. Police continue to work that one. There's also the crash outbound Winchester Road near the interstate. No one's hurt in that wreck. Just cleared one on Russell Cave, so we should be okay past the Circle now. Drive times to Nicholasville, less than 15 minutes, less than 12 to Versailles. Now back to you in the studio.
Just ahead, the Cubs finally did it early this morning.
Well, they did. It was Game 7. It went to extra innings, and it had all you could ask for. And there were Kentucky connections in this Cubs-Indians World Series. That's next when we come back with sports on WKYT. For the first time in 108 years, the city of Chicago is celebrating a Cubs World Series title. Last night's game was epic. Some analysts calling it maybe the best game ever played. Cubs grabbed a 6-3 lead after 39-year-old David Ross became the oldest man to homer in a series Game 7, off Andrew Miller, no less, in Ross's last game before retirement. The Indians battle back in the 8th. Rajai Davis hits this screamer off Aroldis Chapman over the wall in left. 2-run homer. The game was tied at 6. It went to extra innings. In the 10th, former Lexington legend Ben Zobrist doubling past third, and that drove in a pair of runs. 8-6 Cubs. Zobrist named the MVP. The Indians were able to get one back in the bottom of the 10th inning, but the Cubs hang on to win their first World Series title since 1908. Last night, historic in a variety of ways, but there was a strong Kentucky connection in the Fall Classic. Brian Milam has the story.
Here's the 0-1. This is going to be a tough play. Play it. The Cubs win the World Series!
They are the words many knew they would hear at some point in history. The Cubs are the world champions. An historic moment seen through the eyes of 3 men with strong Lexington ties. Home plate umpire Sam Holbrook, born in Moorhead, went to EKU, lives in Lexington.
It was truly epic, and I just feel very blessed and very honored to be put in that spot and to be a part of it, and it was just really incredible.
Indian second baseman Jason Kipnis, a native of Northbrook, Illinois, located just 20 miles north of Chicago. Kipnis played at UK a decade ago and had several memorable moments in the Fall Classic with the Indians, including a Game 4 3-run homer.
Line drive into right back at the wall, and it is gone. Kipnis, a 3-run shot.
Then there is this guy, Ben Zobrist, a former Lexington legend who 10 years ago was an old man playing Class A baseball At age 24,
when Ben was here, he was a nice player, he was good, but he wasn't one of those guys where you looked at and it's like, okay, this guy is going to help organization win a World Series for the first time in 108 years.
It's unbelievable. I can't even put it into words.
And you don't have to. World Series champions is more than enough. In Lexington, Brian Milam, WKYT.
Thank you, Brian. The Cubs World Series celebration parade, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, Chicago time, 11 o'clock Eastern. We'll be right back.